All right, so let's put it all together. And so here we're trying to solve each equation by completing the square. So what we want to do first, and I put the steps here if you want to copy them down. I'll scroll over so you can see them better. But we want to move constants to one side. Okay, then we're gonna, if a is greater than 1, which we're not gonna have too much of, then we want to divide everything by a to get a equal to get the leading coefficient equal to 1. Then we want to add p to both sides. Okay, missed the s there. So add p to both sides. And then we can, once we add p to both sides, then we'll have a perfect square trinomial on the left. So we want to factor that. And it could be on the right too. It doesn't have to be on the left, but that's usually how you'll see it. And then we're going to square root both sides using the square root property. And then we're going to solve for the variable. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. So first thing is I'm going to get my constant to one side. So since x squared is positive here, I'm going to move my 8 to the right. So I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. So then I'm going to get x squared plus 6x. And then I'm going to leave a little space here. Okay, so I'm going to leave a little space here to complete the square. And it's usually, it's always going to be a plus here. Okay, and then whatever I add to this side, I have to balance the equation out. So I'm going to add the same thing on the other side, right? And the value that I want to add is half of this squared, right? So, and I messed up over here. I should add p squared to both sides, right? So or b over 2 squared. Okay, so that's what I want to do, is add p squared to both sides. So I know that p is going to be 6 over 2, right? So I take b over 2, and so that equals 3. And so that means that c is going to be p squared, which is 3 squared, right? Let me just do this. We'll just put p squared equals 9, right? So I'm going to put 9 here and 9 here. All right, so I took half of this and squared it, and that's how I got that. So you don't have to do all this work on paper, but just to make sure we're all on the same page, I wanted to show it. So now I can factor this out. So I'm going to put an x here. This sign is going to come down, so it's going to be a plus. And then remember that p is 3, so I'm going to put 3 in here. All right, and then this side we're just going to operate with. Negative 8 plus 9 is 1. So now we can take the square root of both sides. Don't forget your plus or minus square root property. So now the square root will cancel out the square. So now I have x plus 3. And then I have plus or minus 1, right? Square root of 1 is 1. So then I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. And so we'll get x is equal to negative 3 plus or minus 1. So that turns into negative 3 plus 1, which is negative 2. And negative 3 minus 1, which is negative 4. So those are our two answers. Okay. All right, let's try number 6. So here I have my x on the right. So I want to move this over here, and I want to get the 18 over here, right? And so let's do that. So I'm going to take away 18 from both sides. I'm also going to subtract 9x from both sides. Okay. So then we'll end up with x squared minus 9x. And then I'm going to leave space to complete the square, equals negative 18. And then we're going to leave space to balance it out, right? Okay. So think about what we're going to add here. And we did actually one with the 9x there on the last, or a couple examples ago. So remember that p equals b over 2, right? Okay, so p squared is going to equal positive 81 over 4, right? So I'm going to put that here, 81 over 4. Okay, and so then I'm going to put an x here, minus, so remember this minus and this minus, don't use both of them, just use one or the other, but it's going to be a negative. So I'm going to put 9 over 2 in there, equals, then I have negative 18 plus 81 over 4, right? So negative 18. So if I combine these, and you can do this on your calculator, in your head, on paper, however you want to do it, but 18, if I want to get a common denominator, I put that over 1, multiply by 4 on top and bottom, so I get negative 72 over 4. Let me do this over here on the side. So I get negative 72 over 4 plus 81 over 4, right? So I get negative 72 over 4 plus 81 over 4. So that comes out to 9 over 4. Okay? So I'm going to put 9 over 4 here. Okay, so now we take the square root of both sides, plus or minus. The square and the square root cancel out, so we end up with x minus 9 over 2 equals plus or minus, and square root of 9 over 4 actually can be simplified, right? Square root of 9 is 3, so 3 goes on top. Square root of 4 is 2, so it becomes plus or minus 3 over 2. So now I'm going to add 9 over 2 to both sides. So we end up with x equals 9 over 2 plus or minus 3 halves. Okay, so then we get 9 over 2 plus 3 halves, so that's 12 over 2, right? Which is 6, so 6 is one of our answers. And then this other one, we get 9 over 2 minus 3 over 2, right? Plus or minus means we have 2 answers, so that's going to be 6 over 2, which is 3. All right, so that's how we complete the square.